Huh?
Say something.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. They can. That's pretty loud.
Cool.
It's
Okay. You able to now?
me and
Ladies and gentlemen, All-Star Weekend kicking off here in just 15 minutes. 15 minutes, Body Bio. Ladies and gentlemen, All-Star Weekend kicking off here at the Shop Gym in Ashburn, Virginia in just 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Body Bio live. Ladies and gentlemen, All-Star Weekend going down in just a few minutes. Kicking it off tonight at 5, Body by O. Tomorrow, Victory in Posen, opening ceremony at 8:50 a.m. Closing off Sunday with Wellness.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, how are we feeling tonight? Really? Again, come on. Come on. Why is Callie the other one? Scream. Yeah. Woo! All right, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for coming out and tuning in live. We are going to kick off the VIP weekend with the free Body by O seminar tonight. Then tomorrow, obviously, is the Victory in Posing free seminar. And then Sunday will be the Art of Wellness, which is also a free seminar. So you get a 3-day weekend of completely free knowledge. Yeah, we like that? Yeah. Okay, so it is my very, very good honor to introduce my coach, the coach of legends, the person who loves and has to have a chicken salad every time I see him, and my good friend, Kim Odo, and my also good friend, Laura Lee Chapados.
We on? Yeah, we got. How you guys doing? How's it going, Virginia? Well, last year I tried to come in and I made it. The only problem was that with the weather that you guys can have sometime, they flew me in like 2.5, 3 hours, I think northeast of here. So Scholar and them had to come get me, drop me down, and unfortunately we got in right at the last minute. So I didn't have time to like get my brain waves on the right thing. So let me turn this so it doesn't get reverb. So this time I've had a little bit more time to be collected about my thoughts and go over what I do. The reason that I do these seminars, and I've been doing them for probably 15, 20 years now, is because a lot of times when I talk with my athletes and I talk with clients, and it's hard to expound on some of my thoughts and what I'm wanting, why I do things a certain way. And so with being able to do seminars, what it enables me to kind of share where I came from and what my background is. That allows my clients and people who haven't ever seen me, it lets them get a little bit of an insight of why I kind of do things from an action standpoint that I do, because this is where my background is. And I always preface my seminars by saying, there's not a right or a wrong way when it comes to training. You have different systems, you have different ways of running your systems and working with your clients, and then you have different levels of knowledge and experience. And so whenever I do these, I always tell everybody, look, what information I can share with you that makes sense, that resonates with you, please utilize it. If there's something that maybe you don't agree 100% on or you have a different thought, that is absolutely fine, because we all learn from somewhere. I was influenced in my early years, and I mean really early, like we're talking Civil War stuff. And I was around Dr. Fred Hatfield, I was around Charles Poliquin, I was around Lee Labrada's trainer, Keith Klein. And a lot of what these guys spoke about, it sat in with where my thought process was and what my core belief was. Then I took a lot of their theories and their thoughts, and then I kind of molded it and shaped it into my system and what I do. So I tend to think of things in balance. I have always been like that. I tend to think of things, in compartmentally, because I like everything having its own place in what I do. And so you can be able to do the same thing. You can take this information, some of this is standardized scientific information, but you can take that information and you utilize it to formulate your thoughts. How many of you guys here are actual trainers that do training, personal training? Good. So you guys are all going to pick up your ways, and I tell everybody, like, oh, coach, I want to be, no, be better than me. That's, be the best you can be out there. Learn from who you can learn, take knowledge in, formulate it, and then use that. Going through our slideshow, and this will give, what it does is I use these to give bullet points to make specific points. But then I will expound on these points based on theories that I've done both practically and scholastically. So a lot of my knowledge that we talk about today, it comes from practicality. Because believe me, nobody has screwed up more than I have. I have messed up so many damn times. But from those mess ups comes perfection. You learn not to do that same instance again, and it makes you a better trainer. So we all are going to have those situations. We are all going to have ups and downs. It's how you learn from them and how you use that to make you a better trainer. This just says that I have been around a very long time. I do own my own facility. It's in Temecula. It's not an open facility. It's a private facility. And I use it basically so that I can have one-on-one time with my clients. I like private sessions. I tend to like to work one-on-one with things because I don't want to be distracted, and I like my thoughts being, into being able to focus in on my client and what that particular client might need. So I do have a private facility that's in Temecula. Credentials, we all should have them. The credentials basically kind of justify who you are and that you have some level of accreditation in what you do and what your thoughts are that you got your accreditations from. I have been very blessed to have a lot of Olympians that I have been able to work with. Sometimes I think I'm more blessed than they are, because here these genetically gifted, hardworking people come to me, and I'm able to share knowledge, and they take it, they implement it, and they get to the top of who their field is and what they do. So I have had 6 Olympia champions. I've had 9 Arnold's champions. I have lost count on my pro wins, but one of the girls they take account for that, so half the time I don't even know where the heck my pro wins are. This is my home. I have been blessed with the Mannion family, Mr. Jim Mannion, his son Tyler, JM, Debbie. They have provided a platform for me to show my hard work, for my athletes to show their hard work. There is no organization around, period, that matches up to the quality of the NPC and the IFBB. The shows are run impeccably. You have such a level of gravitation and where you can go, starting all the way from square one and going all the way up into the Olympia. And so like any other organization, whether it's track and field, whether it's boxing, whether it's baseball, when you have a core structure like the NPC and the IFBB has, when you have that core structure, you know where you can go and what you can do. And you have a great platform to show it. Gary Udit runs the Mid-Atlantic district out here, and Gary's shows are amazing. I don't know if any of you guys have been to the Masters Nationals, the North Americans, the Pittsburgh Nationals. He puts on amazing productions, and I am blessed every year that I get to see him, because it means I've got one more year under my belt that we've been able to share stages and do things. But he puts his attention to the athletes, and they make sure that the athletes have everything set for them that weekend. So your district out here is a great district. You guys have a lot of competitive athletes. Get out and enjoy your district, because you have a good one. I've had pros on the Olympia stage in just about every single category. And again, I feel more blessed because the athletes come in. These are some of my bikini pros that's been on the Olympia stage. Angelica Teixeira, Janet, our newest little angel, Laura Lee Chapato. When you're at this level and you're at the pro level where these bikini girls are, the difference between these athletes is slight to minimal. It boils down to the finest attention to detail. And that's what great trainers do. They do not miss one aspect of what you're wanting to put on a stage. Everything from the walk, and Laura Lee's going to go over things today with you from the stage aspect of things, your hair, your makeup, your shoes, your posing, but all of it has to come together. And so if you have a great physique, and your physique is strong and it's good, and you wrap it up in a plastic bag, it loses its appeal. But you wrap it up in the nicest, prettiest paper you can find, and that gives it an appeal and a pop that matches what the physique is. So when you're working with the upper end and that elite level of athlete, there's always going to be more pressure on all the little finite things that finish packages off. I've also been blessed to have a lot of pro figure Olympians. And I have had fitness going all the way back to Kelly Ryan and Laura Mack. Now we have our new wellness division, and that's off and running, because wellness in and of itself is a whole different category. So it's an asymmetrical, I call it an asymmetrical category, because it's a little more lower body dominant, and it's not as symmetrical as like figure and women's physique is. And so with wellness, again, it's changing the thought process, but it reaches a large market of girls who have always had the fuller, lower bodies, that it's a little harder for them, to get the balance top to bottom. It gives them a home to be able to show. So very blessed right now to have Angela Borges, who was second in the Olympia. Eurisha, I am currently working with for the Arnolds, and we're excited for her package and what she's bringing to the table. I also have men's physique. I've had classic men's physique. So I'm kind of one of those chameleons that whatever comes up, if it walks, rolls, crawls, I want to train it. I have no problem. It doesn't matter to me. But I like getting into all aspects of things, because it challenges where my thoughts are, and it challenges me to be a better trainer. Some of the things we'll go over today is contest nutrition. Now, when you look at the bullet points, these are all parts of the nutrition that we're going to talk about. So you have your definition of a calorie, your metabolic meter, what happens when your calories get too low, your meal frequency, your balanced body, and your thyroid function. Now, when you look at a calorie, not all calories are created equal. And it's kind of why I have a little bit of a problem when it comes with just, if it fits your macros, everything falls into one plate. Not all calories are created equal. Not all fats are the same. Not all carbs are the same. Not all protein is the same. Some are a little bit, they assimilate a little faster, and the usability of the nutrients is a little bit faster. So when I work with my athletes, I like to be a little more specific minded in what I do, and I like to formulate and put things in a proper perspective so that it allows their calories to be utilized much more efficient and much more effective. So you'll find I always like to equate things. So I equate things from a standpoint of trying to draw a picture for you to be able to understand where my thought is and what I'm doing. So for instance, I look at calories like I look at gas for a car. You have three different types of gas, and it could be regular, it could be unleaded, it could be unleaded, it could be the 87, 89, 91. Each one has a higher octane, which is going to let the engine perform at a higher performance. Your body's the same way with calories. Each calorie can have a higher, think of it as this is a higher octane. And if I have this instead of this, my body is going to utilize it and burn those calories much more efficiently. So when you're looking at your calories, the whole idea is be able to get as many calories into your diet as you can so that your body continues to burn its body fat it protects its lean muscle tissue, but yet you still achieve your goals of where you're trying to get your body fat levels to. And so the amount of calories that you can get in there, two things happen. One, you have satiability, so it protects, it keeps you from cravings and setting up, to get into areas of like binging or, sing loud, like binging or overeating. And secondly, protects your lean muscle tissue. Because too many times we diet down for shows and we get to the back end of the show and we're stringy or our balance gets out of balance and our bodies aren't balanced and hasn't been put through the right formula, that we ended up sacrificing muscle tissue. So we want to always make sure that the quality of calorie we use is always the highest quality. The calories burned per gram is an indicator of how your body utilizes its calories. So protein and carbs burn at about the same rate. Fat burns almost 2 to 1 over what protein and carbs do. What's the important part about this? The good news is fat raises your core metabolic rate a little higher. The bad news is if you overeat it, it's a more dense calorie. So it's harder to burn the excess that you're getting in. It's harder to burn the excess to get the excess out. So you want to have fats in your diet, especially the female athletes, because it's really important to your hormonal system and your endocrine system. And we'll talk about that when we get into body balance. But understanding and knowing that fats are more dense. If you overeat a handful of almonds, the density of those almonds is a lot more than, say, 2 or 3 ounces of chicken or turkey or 2 ounces of a sweet potato. So just be careful when you're dealing with fats, understand the density of the fats. Your metabolism is basically the rate at which it burns its gas. So if calories are equal to gas, and your metabolism is the engine that burns the gas. Some of us are blessed and we're like Ferraris, and others are like Mini Coupes, like me, where we don't process our calories as fast as we'd like to. So when you're setting, the reason I put this out there is when you're designing programs or you're setting up a program for yourself and you're thinking about, well, I heard that I should have 1,800 calories or 2,000 calories. That's not always the same for every single person. You want to know where your core metabolic rate is and how hot your core metabolic rate runs. Once you know where that basal metabolic rate is, then that kind of gives you the formula on where you should put your calories. Now, usually what you do is you look at what you do, a basal metabolic rate. You find out where that is, then you add in your activity levels. So if you're doing 45 minutes of training, you're doing 30 minutes of cardio, you add those calories burned in, you tack that onto your basal metabolic rate. Now you have a formula of knowing, okay, if I just want to stay where I'm at and just slowly work on my lean muscle, get it up, then I have to be at this calorie range. If I want to be at a deficit where I start to burn body fat, I need to be a little bit below it. If I want to be at an expenditure where I start to gain lean muscle tissue, I need to be a little bit higher. So whenever I first start working with my athletes, I always try to figure out, okay, where is their basal rate? How fast is that core metabolic rate? Then from there, I can start to draw up how I want to put things and where I want to go. It's what we had to do a lot with Lorelei, because when we first started working together, I had a very limited knowledge because she was, coming close to a show, and I didn't want to go too far off base of where she was, but then I started to play with certain things to find out, okay, is her metabolism going fast enough? Is it a little sluggish? How are we doing? And so we started to play with food bumps and setting our calories. Well, this time going into this Arnold's, we've had a full 12-week cycle we were able to work with. So what it did is it kind of gave me the background on, okay, this is kind of where we have to be. This is our good set spot. Now from here, let's start to do what we do and start to have things come in. So once you figure that part out, then it makes the whole process of where you're going after that a lot simpler. Dropping calories too low. Your body it's got its own mechanism to protect itself. And why does it want to protect itself? Because if you drop those calories too low and you get calories down, and that might be 1,200 calories, that might be 1,100, that might be 1,000. Again, it is different with each individual, but if you get those calories down too low, your body is going to trigger starvation. And if it triggers starvation, one of two things are going to happen. It's going to change its source of what it thinks it needs for fuel. So it will literally start to atrophy the muscle because it will start to use muscle tissue for fuel. And in the worst case scenarios, like with anorexia, it will actually start to use internal organs. So it will start to pick at the liver, the kidneys. That's when you get into a lot of health issues and health problems that are sometimes irreversible. And so you always want to make sure there's a line of demarcation. There's a line that you cannot go under. And sometimes it's better to take a step back and go, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be ready. I need a little more time, but I'm not going to put my health at risk by trying to drop my calories down so low that I literally shut my system off. And so we want to make sure that we always keep the calorie balance in a place where it's being protective to our internal organs and to lean muscle tissue. Because if you get into ketosis and you get too deep into ketosis, it's hard to get out of it. Because then to get that body mechanism moving again, your core metabolic rate is shut off. And to get it running again, it can take a little bit. So always make sure you're very careful about how low you drop these calories. The other important factor is your meal frequency. How often you're having your food. Lately, and sometimes it's just a matter of who I'm on the phone with and where my clients are coming from, I've been getting a lot of questions. Coach, can I put because usually I will put a 5 or a 6 meal plan day. I usually never ever go below 5. And most of my meal plans fall around 6, sometimes 7, depending upon the speed of the metabolism and how fast, if it's my guys, how fast their metabolism going. So lately I've been getting a lot of questions about, Coach, can I put meal 4 and 5 together? Can I combine a meal so that I can fit all of my meals in? And I tell them all the time, no, we don't. We want the smaller, more frequent meals. And again, if you equate your metabolism to a fire, okay, and if your core metabolic rate is your fire, if you put hot, good wood, small amounts in that fire is going to burn hotter and hotter and hotter. That's the way you stimulate core metabolisms. If you put obviously bad wood in a fire, fire's going to go out. You put no wood in the fire, fire's going to go out. So the idea is feed your metabolism constantly, because what it does is it keeps your body from triggering that starvation mechanism. So if your body knows, okay, every 2.5 to 3.5 hours, they're going to feed me, then it's going to release those calories to be burned. Because it knows, instinctively, it knows, okay, I've got another meal coming in about 2.5 to 3.5 hours. If you spread that out and you start getting inconsistent, now your body starts to hoard. And in what you give it, it goes, this fool's not going to feed me for about another 4 to 5 hours. I'm holding on. I'm going to become a chipmunk. I'm not letting anything go, because I know I'm not going to have any food again for another 4 to 5 hours. Now your body goes back to that hoarding practice. Now everything you eat gets stored as body fat. Your body doesn't release it. And now when you get your next meal in, it falls right on top of the other one. The reason why you don't want to combine meals, Your body can really only assimilate and use about for most women, about 400 to 600 calories at a meal. Guys can handle more. We have more muscle. The metabolism that burns within the muscle is higher. So guys have those faster metabolisms. So the calories per meal can be a little bit larger. With girls, it tends to fall in that 350 to 500 calorie range. That's about where most meal calories are going to fall. If you combine 2 meals, and let's say each meal is a 300 calorie meal or a 350 calorie, that's 600 to 700 calories. So now what's going to happen, your body will utilize what it needs for glycogen to go into the muscle for cell recovery. Whatever it don't need, it's going to store as body fat. Because it goes, okay, I've got everything I need. I have everything I need for my next workout, for my recovery, for my energy levels. So now what it does is it starts to store it as body fat. And that's because you're eating more than your body is capable of using at that one particular time. So we want to make sure we space those meals out properly, and we don't want to over-engage in our calories, because then our body will store that overage into your body fat cells. Your balanced body, and again, this is really more so for the girls than the guys, but the balance that I like to pay close attention to is the respiratory system, the endocrine system, the lymphatic system, your circulatory, your reproductive, your skeletal, your nervous system, and your digestive. Girls are a lot more complex people than guys. With guys, you ramp up our testosterone, you make sure we can digest our food, we're pretty much good to go. One hard rock on the headphones and we're after it. With girls, it's a domino effect. One thing goes off amongst all those right there, because they all touch each other. One thing goes off, that domino comes over and it hits the next thing, and that goes off. So whether it starts with hormones, and your hormone levels get out of balance, testosterone to estrogen, now that turns around and that touches into the adrenal glands, and that turns around and that touches into cortisol. Now that turns around and that goes into the endocrine system, which is your health, your immune. All these things start tacking. Then to find out what's wrong, it's like a grab bag. You're trying to figure out, okay, what part of this aspect is off that I'm so far up now, I can't figure out how to get down. How many of you guys have had times where you're dieting, and you feel like nothing's moving? It's not going anywhere. You're looking around and you're like, okay, what is going on? Why won't my body move? It's because 90% of the time, one of these systems are off. And so if you get a system off, especially with girls, you get those hormones off, and it gets really hard, because then your body starts to fight you on everything that you're doing with your core metabolic rate and how you're trying to push that metabolism. So we want to always make sure, it's why I think of everything in balance, especially with female athletes. I am always trying to keep all of their systems in balance with one another, so everything is at optimal function. And I do, a lot of times I do it with lab work. I will have the girls at the very beginning of their program get their lab work done, at the middle of their program get their lab work done, and at the end of the program get their lab work done, so that we can make sure that everything is functioning and falling into the mid-ranges. And whether it's your liver, your kidneys, your hormones, make sure that we try to get everything in balance, keep it there, so we don't end up having to try to fight our physique, because that leads to frustration, and with the frustration, cortisol and everything else rises. Your thyroid function, I do check thyroid function. There's a couple of different ways. You can check it manually yourself by using a thermometer first thing in the morning when you wake up, so you can check your temperature. If your temperature is constantly running low and you're constantly at, let's say, 96 or 95 first thing in the morning when you wake up. That can be an indicator that your thyroid function is slow, and there can be a number of things that's affecting your thyroid, whether it's adrenal fatigue or whether it's foods you're eating. You know, we all have allergies. I've been needing to do more and more and more allergy testing with girls because we have so many different allergies that we don't even realize are out there. And so we go on a diet where we're eating a lot of asparagus, or we're having lots of nuts, or we're having grains, and you have allergies to things. Usually with women, gluten, dairy, wheat products, all these things you can develop allergies to. And allergies don't necessarily have to be something that you're born with. An allergy can be created from consistency of eating and doing the same thing every single day, eating the same food. That's why I like to use variety in what I do with my meal plans. So my meal plans have a structure, and then they have an exchange list, so we create variety to move different foods in and out so that we don't develop food sensitivities. But if you get these food sensitivities, then that can turn right around and fall back into your thyroid and slow down the thyroid function. So what I do is, if I think it's something, and Laura Lee we were training a couple of weeks ago in Vegas, and I had my hand on her shoulder. And so we'd train a little bit, I had my hand on her shoulder, we'd train a little bit, I had my hand. So I asked her at the end of the thing, I said, do you know why I had my hand on your shoulder? She goes, no. I said, because I was trying to feel the heat coming off your body, and to see how fast your metabolism was running. That gives me an idea of when I need to know I need to feed her to get her metabolism moving. So when your core metabolic rate is at full speed, when it's really running well, your body emits heat. It lets the heat out. It doesn't need to hold it in because its metabolism is moving. When your core metabolic rate is not functioning, or your thyroid function is low, then your body internalizes the heat. So it tries to heat itself up. And so how many of you guys have done training? You've been on, let's say, a treadmill. You're sweating, but the sweat is kind of cold. It's like a clammy sweat. That's an indicator that your core metabolic rate is internalizing its heat. So whenever I'm working with the girls and I'm around them, I'm always trying to feel for where that heat is coming from. How hot is their body moving? That tells me how I need to feed them based on how much heat I'm feeling coming off of their body. But the other thing I do sometimes is if it's a situation where I really think that there's either a thyroid function problem from a genetic standpoint or from a health, then I will send them to the physician, and I'll have the doctors check their T3, their T4, their free thyroid, get everything checked, get a full thyroid panel done, just to make sure that they don't have a genetic thyroid issue that we didn't know about, and now they're fighting their bodies, not realizing why their body fat levels aren't dropping as fast as they would like them to, and it's because we need to balance it out medically. Going over the building blocks of nutrition. You have your proteins, your amino acids, your carbohydrates, your chemical specs of carbs, which is basically your types of carbohydrates, your timing of your carb intake, your fats, and your meal content ratio. Again, proteins are the same way. Not all proteins are created equal. So in other words, fish is a leaner, lighter protein substance than chicken and turkey. So it will burn faster, your body will utilize it a little quicker, but the efficiency of the protein is about the same as what chicken and turkey is. A beef, a red meat, is going to be a little more dense. So in other words, that won't burn as efficient as chicken, turkey, and fish. Now, is red meat still a good substitute? Absolutely. It has a lot of iron, and the fat levels of it, the essential fats that are in it, are a lot better. Same thing with salmon. Salmon tends to be a higher fat, but it's a quality protein because the essential fatty acids that are in it are extremely good for your hormone levels. So when you're having your proteins, you want to make sure you're always having the highest quality protein, and then you want to utilize it depending upon where you're at in your plans and how close you are, whether you're at the beginning of the plan, the middle of the plan, or the end of the plan. Because if you tend to be at the end of your plan, then you tend to go to your lighter, faster burning proteins like your fish to get your body to utilize those calories quicker. Your amino acids, I call them the cavalry. Okay, it's what comes in and it rescues your muscle. So what do I mean by that? When we train, every time you train, you shave a layer of the fascia, which is the sheathing that surrounds the muscle. We shave a layer of the fascia. The amino acids is what comes in, and it heals it. And as it heals it, it doesn't heal it smaller, it heals it slightly larger. Now that becomes extremely important, because if that healing process does not happen, then growth does not happen, which is why more is not always better. So when I work with it, and we'll talk a little bit about training when we get into training, but when I work with my athletes, I focus on intensity, form and function, and making sure that we're not overtraining and we're not getting muscle atrophy. And so the amino acids become extremely important, because that's the building block. That's what comes in and heals and gets regrowth. So if you picture your muscle like a baseball, and every time you train, you shave a layer of that baseball, but you don't heal, you don't recover. Eventually the baseball is going to be about the size of a pea. And that's what happens when you go into shows and you feel stringy and flat. It's because you have not gotten any regeneration of the muscle to create muscle fullness and muscle volumization. So we want to always make sure that we're having a high quality. Now, whether you're using supplementation like branch chains and glutamine, or you're doing it through your healthy proteins, it's, either way both ways are good. I tend to use a combination of the two. Are any of you guys vegetarians or vegans? Not here in Virginia, huh? Well, with vegetarians, if you ever train and you're working with vegans and vegetarians, this becomes really important, because their sources of protein are what we call incomplete sources. So it's down at the bottom, your corn, your rice, your beans, your soy. Those are now by incomplete, what do we mean? They don't contain all of the essential aminos. Now your essential aminos are going to be the ones that your body cannot reproduce. Your body needs those put into it to be able to have it for utilization purposes. The non-essential, your body can assimilate and recreate. So that's why they're non-essential, because your body can actually create them to help with muscle restoration. So when you're working, and if you're working with anyone who is a vegetarian, you have to make sure that you get those essential amino acids into their diet, so that their recovery and muscle growth can start to come up to where a normal average eating mechanism would be. When you're looking at carbohydrates, you basically have two categories. You have simple and complex. And simple are carbohydrates that go from glucose to glycogen quickly. So your body can utilize it, it changes quickly, and when and how you use simple carbs are going to tie into when and how you use complex carbs, which complex carbs are slower ingesting into the system. So a lot of times, if you tend to have a fast metabolism and you tend to have blood sugar levels that can be very bouncy on you, where you get blood sugar level drops, then sometimes we'll use simple carbs right before cardio or right before training, because it gets our blood sugar levels up. And once you get the blood sugar levels up, your energy levels are up, then your workouts tend to be strong and everything tends to be very good. Now, where you want to be careful at, if you think of your metabolism like a roller coaster, and at the top of the roller coaster, that's when your insulin levels are high. When that roller coaster comes down and your blood sugar levels come down, it does not come back down to normal. It goes below normal. And that's what triggers cravings. So if you get cravings, it's because blood sugar levels are dropping. They're dropping below normal. It spikes to your brain, okay, I need sugar to get my insulin level back up again. So now you start to crave, you feed it sugar, we're back up at the top, we're feeling amazing, everything's great, we love the person to the left and right of us. Now we go back down, we hate the person to the left and right of us, we're mad at everybody because again, we're on that insulin roller coaster and things are up, down. The idea with dieting is to be able to create a flat line. That's the key. If you can keep the insulin on a flat line, then your moods, which all of us know is extremely important, you keep your moods balanced. So it goes all the way back to the balance theory of keeping everything in check. So when you're putting programs together, I tend to stay a lot more into the complex carbs, which of course your complexes are like your legumes or your yams, your sweet potatoes, things that are slower ingesting and slower burning, but the source of energy is more consistent. So I keep the insulin levels on a more flat line so my clients don't go through cravings, and I keep them satiable. And so that's from more physical, it's a mental control. It's controlling your mind so that your mind is healthy and it's in a good place, and it's enjoying the process of what you're doing. Within your carbs, you have 3 different types of sugars. So you have your monosaccharides, which are singular rings. They're singular molecules. You have your disaccharides, which are 2 molecules, and then you have your poly, which is 3 or more. Now your polysaccharides are what we just got into, our complex carbs. That's where most of your complex carb lines fall. And those are going to be things that are slower ingesting into your system, and it keeps your insulin on a more consistent plane. The monosaccharides are the fastest burning. Now, falling within this structure, you're going to notice what? A lot of sugar alcohols. And same thing in your disaccharides. You're going to notice you're running into your sugar alcohols. Now, the problem I have with sugar alcohols, and my clients ask me all the time, Coach, why can't I have a Bang drink? It's sugar-free. The way the FDA classifies something as being sugar-free is that it does not significantly impact insulin. So as long as something doesn't significantly change or alter your insulin levels, it's categorized as sugar-free. Does that mean it's sugar-free? No, it doesn't. It's still a sugar compound. And the way your body processes sugar is that as it goes through the liver, it is then converted from a sugar into a trans fatty acid. And that's going to be absorbed into the bloodstream quickly because trans fatty acids have a higher spike to them. So your body absorbs them and stores them as fat quicker. So you want to be really, really careful with the sugar alcohols. And I have seen more times that I've been able to change more physiques off that one structure than anything else. How many of you guys chew gum? Okay, have you ever really looked at a pack of gum? How many sugar alcohols are in one stick? They have like 4 or 5, sometimes 6 different sugar alcohols in one stick of gum. Same thing sometimes with the energy drinks. Some of these energy drinks have 5, 6 sugar alcohols. Now, does that mean you can't chew gum? Absolutely not. You can. But the smarter thing to do is look for a gum that's sweetened with 1 sugar alcohol. So in other words, something like Spree that is sweetened with xylitol only. And look for something that comes from a natural source. So stevia or xylitol, something that's not chemically altered. Because your body, like anything else, it wants to stay in balance. And I know I keep getting back to this balance thing, but your body wants to stay in balance. And so when you put a chemical in it, now your body's going to have the opposite reaction, because what's your body going to want to do? Balance itself back out. So sometimes your alcohol levels come back up too high, your sugar alcohols, then you get distension and bloating, and you get sluggishness and irritability through the intestines. That's your body trying to get rid of things. So it gets water retentive, you have an allergic reaction to it, and your body starts to hold water, you feel bloated, you feel distended. So your body's going to always tell you what it doesn't like. I always tell my clients, you ever want to know what really doesn't work well? Get away from it for about a month, for about 4 weeks. Get away from something, drop it completely, then bring it back into your system and see how your body responds. And your body will tell you exactly, because you'll have, if it's not something that works well with your system, you will have a strong negative reaction to it. So when you're going into your sugar rings, be careful. Watch the sugar alcohols. They're not sugar-free. They're not nature's best friend. They're not the miracle thing. 9 times out of 10, they are going to slow you down. I had one of my clients a long time ago. She would put Splenda on everything. And so we happened to be at a grocery store one time, and I'm like, Gina, what are you doing? She goes, she had like 17 cucumbers. She bought 17 cucumbers. And I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, I put Splenda on. I'm like, how much Splenda? She goes, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 packets. It's like, oh my God. So I said, okay, let's do a little experiment. Let's drop this for 1 day. 1 day that girl lost 7.5 pounds. That's how much water she was holding from the chemical reaction that was coming from the Splenda and how her body was treating it. Your obviously carbohydrates, they have 2 functions. How many of you guys think that the most important time to have carbohydrates is before you do exercise? Nobody. So. We have a so-so. How many of you guys think it's important after you do your training? We have more afters. The correct answer? Both of them. They're both important. How many of you guys have ever tried to do cardio when you have no damn energy? It is not fun. And half the time you don't do it. My clients always ask, Coach, do I have to do fasted cardio? No, you don't have to do fasted cardio. What good does it do you to do a cardio session? You have no energy, you're flatlined, and now you have a half-assed cardio workout. That doesn't do you any good. You're not getting the full effectiveness of your cardio. I'm not a believer in doing 2 hours of cardio a day because I just think bodies and minds are not meant to be that locked in for that long period of time. It's almost impossible to keep the intensity up. I like to put everything about intensity. Get in, hit it hard, get out. Carbohydrates before is important because that makes sure your glycogen levels are full. So what your body does is it takes glucose and it converts glucose into glycogen, goes into the muscle, and then that's your storage for your energies for when you're going to do your training. It's also extremely important to replenish glycogen. Because if you don't replenish it, now what can happen is, now the muscle bellies get depleted of glycogen, now they get stringy and you start to lose the fullness and roundness. A lot of times when I look at my athletes, like Laura Lee or any of my pro athletes or my amateurs, and we talk about creating fullness. Sometimes the judges will tell you guys, I want to see more fullness to the shoulders. I want to see more. They're not saying they want more density necessarily sometimes, depending upon if you need a little bit more muscle or not. But what they're wanting to see is that roundness, that curve. Because within the curve is the femininity. And so when you're building structures, You want to keep curve, you want to keep roundness and fullness, and some of that, a lot of that, comes from what you're doing with your carb levels and how you're feeding your body its carbs and when you're feeding it its carbs. So your carb levels are very important to make sure that you're both protecting before and after. Your timing of your carbs. A lot of times everybody's been heard, you just need carbs, you just need, it's always again about balance. You don't want to have one thing without another thing to counterbalance it. So the good thing about having your proteins with your carbs, proteins slows down the digestibility of your carbs. So now it lets the carbs into your bloodstream at a slower pace, and it allows your body to be able to process those carbs more efficiently. And it can be the same thing with proteins. Whenever you use, how many of you guys have used a protein powder? And you've noticed after you take your protein powder, your tummy gets distended, or it gets bloated, or you just flat out feel uncomfortable. How many of you guys have had that experience? Most of you. Okay, what happens is, especially with whey proteins, when you have whey proteins can go through your system extremely quickly, and it can drop right down into the intestines. So what happens, that's when you get the distension and the bloating. So what I like to do a lot of times is I'll add something into my shakes. It could be a flax meal, it could be peanut butter, it could be a type of fruit if we're off season. So I add things into the shake to slow down the digestibility of the protein. So by slowing it down, your system has a chance to actually utilize all of the nutrients of the protein before it goes straight through your system and drops straight down into your intestines, and it creates bloating. So a lot of times, having a balance between proteins, carbs, and fats, they all help each other. They help with digestibility, they help slowing things down so insulin doesn't get pushed in real quick. With fats, I know a lot of times sometimes, especially with girls, now with bodybuilders, guys are a little different because they keep their fat levels lower because they're trying to utilize the fats that they have in their system, use that for their energy levels so that they get their body fat levels down low. With girls, it's a completely different thought process, because if your fat levels get too low, your hormones will go off. I promise you, because your hormones run off essential fatty acids. So things like your hair, your nails, your skin tone, all these things are extremely important, and without the healthy fats, you are not going to get that. Your hair's going to lose its sheen, your skin's going to get dry, your hormones will get off, and now you have that whole issue of everything being out of balance. So for girls not to have essential fats in their system can be very different. Now there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can do it with having, the high quality fish like salmon or sea bass. You can also do it with using essential fatty acids and supplementing your diet with essential. I kind of use both. I will use the healthy fats like avocado or evening primrose oil or almonds or cashews. I use the healthy fats, but I also use the essential fatty acids because your body will utilize these fats a lot faster than you think they will. And if you've got your fats in balance, it will utilize calories. Now, like anything else, going all the way back to when we first started talking, and I said, okay, you have to be very careful about the density of fats, so how much fat you're having. You want to always make sure that the calories you're eating of fat fits within the structure of what you're trying to do and where you're trying to have your different types of fats. But I'll use a balance between the two. Now, I go on product labeling. I talk a lot about how I call it product label creativity, because nowadays the companies have gotten really creative with making things look healthy and look, good. I grabbed there was a muffin. How many of you guys have bought a muffin? And you look at the muffin, and now when they do come with lists, most of them don't even. If you go to Starbucks, they don't have a listing in there. But you look at the muffin, and it says 250 calories, 6 grams of fat, blah, 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 blah. And you think, oh, okay, that's cool. This is within what I want. Now you eat the muffin, but then when you're looking at the label closer, you realize serving size 4. And that's the trickness of creative advertising. So basically what they're doing is, it's deceptive. Nuts can be like that too. You'll look at a bag of almonds or a little bag of nuts, and it says 110 calories, 10 grams of fat. There's like 6 servings in that one little thing, and you don't realize it. So you eat it all. Now you're thinking you're eating 110 calories, and you're eating 600 calories or 700. So you have to be careful to make sure that you read all labels. How many of you guys use Pam? Almost everybody out cooks with Pam. A lot of you guys? What's the serving size of Pam? Exactly. Now, legally, something can be 0.9 grams and under and be categorized as fat-free. So if it's 0.9 grams, what they do is they lower the serving size so small that it's like 0.8 grams. So it's almost a gram of fat, but it's 1/3 second or 1/18 second of a spray. Who the hell sprays for 1/18 second? None of us. We draw Mickey Mouse, we put our initials in there, we coat the whole, we spray the hell out of it. Then, once we got it all sprayed, we're thinking, okay, it's fat-free. No, you actually now are sitting there with 5 to 8 grams of fat. Now, do that 4 or 5 times a day. Now you've got 30 to 40 grams of fat that you never accounted for. And you're wondering, what the hell? Why can't I lose 1 pound? This is stupid. It's these little things that we don't think about because serving sizes are so small and things are broken down in such a creative way that we don't realize actually what we're doing. So when you're looking at fats, you want to always be really careful about the serving size and how much fat is in that serving size. Because these are the sneaky things that usually get us. We're usually pretty good that when we look at something exactly as it is and we know, okay, that's got 20 grams of fat. I'm not going to eat all 20 grams of that fat. It's the sneaky things that tend to get you. There's also a formula, because how many times have you guys seen, now if you go to the grocery and you look at meat. Meat's a good one for this, because it'll say, based on a 2,000 calorie diet, this has 5%. Well, yeah, they're diluting the percentage of the body fat based on a larger volume. So on the whole volume of the package, they're saying that, oh yeah, this amount of fat with this whole package is only 2 or 3% body fat. But when you break it down to the individual serving size, so if we go back to where we had our formula, if you go back to calories, grams of fat, the calories burned is 9. So if you take, let's say if you get turkey, and you get a serving size of turkey, and let's say it's, in this case, let's use our tuna. So if it's 1 gram of fat, or let's say you get turkey, it's 3 grams, so 3 times 9 is 27. And let's say it's 110 calories per serving. So if you take the 27 divided by the 100, which is the serving size, now you get what the fat content is for each serving size. And don't be surprised when 88's not 88 and 92's not 92, because they base it upon the broad calorie structure of the whole thing. So they're diluting it down by the amount of calories that they have. Some of your healthy fats, obviously, your olive oils, your coconut oils, your almonds, your salmon. Again, not all fats are created equal. So when you're using fats, you want to use the fats that assimilate quickly, that are higher in essential fatty acids, that your body will utilize at a quicker pace. When it comes to ratios, I don't use pie charts as much as I used to because obviously everybody has a different pie. And so each chart is going to be different. If you're a trainer and you're working with athletes, this chart is going to slide all over the place. And it should be. Because as trainers, we should never know what we're going to do 3 or 4 weeks down the line. If you do, you are not looking at your athlete or your client at that specific moment at what's working. My clients always ask me, Coach, what weight are we going to be on stage? Huh? How the hell do I know? I don't know where we're going to be. Coach, what are we going to do for peak week? I have no clue. I have to wait until we get into that moment and we see, okay, now, how's our metabolism running? What's it doing? How much water are we holding? You have to look at all factors. So whenever you're customizing a program, every single physique is going to be a different physique. And with how you design pie charts, they're going to be different with every single client because each person has different likes, dislikes, allergies, degrees of calorie expenditure. All of us have different systems that we're all set up in. So you have to customize that system. So this is going to slide. There is no perfect pie chart. For someone to say, well, you should be eating 30 grams of this and 20 grams of that, it's going to be different with every individual because everyone assimilates food differently. Some people assimilate fats better, some carbs, some proteins. So you have to find what's right. Just like in the protein structure, girls do not utilize protein as well as guys do. So for a girl to be on 170 or 180 grams of protein, it's probably going to create issues within the liver and the kidneys because that protein gets into the bloodstream and now that blood goes through your liver. Now the density starts to make the liver have to work harder. And then now your bilirubin levels start to come up. So you want to be careful. I've got some of my clients, they only do 120 grams of protein. I've got some that can do 140, 150 grams of protein. But again, it's different depending upon the degree of muscularity that they have. And on top of that, how fast their core metabolic rate is moving. With vitamins, I talk about them loosely because yes, they are important. Yeah, especially right now with all the bugs that are going on around us and how many things we've got floating around. Keeping the immune system high and fully functional is extremely important. I always tell my clients, there's 2 things that will stop you from attaining your goals: injuries, sickness. Those 2 things will end a prep quicker than anything else. And so your vitamin structure and how you're taking your vitamins and minerals become important because that's how you protect your body. And so you want to always make sure, A, you're using a high quality vitamin. Now, I don't believe in overkill with vitamins. I think to utilize vitamins to supplement and augment your nutrition so that you get good balance to it is okay, it's fine. To use way too much, you just really have expensive urine. That's kind of all it's going to boil down to because your body's going to excrete what it doesn't need and it's going to discard it because it doesn't have to have it. Water, there's been more times that I've had clients ask me for a fat burner because they felt like, oh, Coach, I just have no energy. Something's going on. I have no energy. I need a fat burner. And in reality, that fat burner is the worst thing for them because their energy levels are not down because their central nervous system needs to be amped up. Their energy levels are down because they're dehydrated. And their bodies are, anytime your body gets dehydrated, it's going to flatline. I mean, our bodies are 65 to 70% water. So if that water level drops down to 30 or 40, which is kind of easy to happen right now because our favorite word is like Starbucks, or everybody loves coffee, everybody loves tea. All of these things are natural dehydrants. So they leach minerals from our system, and then that turns around, dehydrates us. So water is the important, essential part of preps and programs. You have got to stay hydrated. Now, that being said, I'm not a proponent of drinking 3 to 4 gallons of water a day, because again, you can create the opposite effect. Your body, it can leach water from your system, and drinking too much can actually dehydrate you. And so the most important thing, what's the most important thing about water? The electrolyte level. Because if you picture your body like a battery, if that battery acid level starts to get low and you just keep adding water to the battery, eventually the acid level of the battery is gone and all is in there is water, so the battery's dead. Your body's the same way. If you just keep putting water, but you don't have the electrolytes, which the electrolytes are the transport to get the water into the muscle. If you do not have those electrolyte levels in your body, now your body leaches more electrolytes. So every time you drink and you go to the bathroom, you lose electrolytes. And you drink and you go to the bathroom and you lose electrolytes. And how many of you times have you guys drank water and go, dude, I'm like peeing like every 5 minutes. I can't keep anything in. It's because the electrolyte level in your body is too far down. And now your body's not storing any of the water in the muscle for hydration. So always make sure, now there's a couple of different ways you can get your electrolytes in. They've got electrolyte water that you can obviously drink. That puts the electrolytes in. Wow, that's one of my favorite ways to do it, because then as you're drinking, you're immediately replenishing your electrolyte level. The other way you can do it is by having an electrolyte little packet like Emergency, or get the little electrolyte tablets and you just add those in twice a day, or add it to your water while you're drinking. But the most important thing is make sure that you're keeping the electrolytes in. If the electrolytes aren't there, then yes, you are going to get dehydrated and your body, your energy levels are going to go down. So now you think you need a fat burner, and by the way, what does the fat burner do? Leaches more water. So now you're getting more into dehydration. So if you start feeling that energy, think about where your electrolyte levels are and your water levels first. And again, as we said, with certain things like alcohol, coffees, teas, those things are going to leach. They are natural diuretics. Asparagus, these things will leach water from your system, which will leach minerals and electrolytes from your system. Minerals is the other important part, because minerals is what keeps the muscle from cramping. So having magnesium, having calcium, that helps keep the muscle fullness hydrated so that you're not getting cramping issues. All this comes from those electrolyte levels. A lot of times, and again, not being a right or wrong way, you have different ways. Everybody has different ways of prepping their athletes for shows and what you put in. I tend not to be a proponent of overloading or underloading. So by that I mean I do not have my clients drink 3.5, 4 gallons of water the 2-3 days before the show, and I don't strip them, I don't shut their water down a day or two before. To me, you're going to create such an imbalance to the electrolyte system. You create what I call a pendulum. And so now you're loading and you're over here, then you drop and you switch and you go the other way. Now the pendulum comes all the way over here. So you're kind of playing Russian roulette with your body. You don't know, maybe it'll hit and you'll look perfect and everything will be the best it's been, and maybe you'll miss and 2 days, the day after the show, after you've rehydrated and you've balanced your system, and you look in the mirror and go, holy shit, why didn't it look like this yesterday? I'm like dead on the money today. What the hell happened? Because that pendulum got to swinging back and forth. So I tend to like to do things in a very balanced approach. So I slowly manipulate what I do with water and with sodium, and I keep things in a balanced state. And then by doing just slight manipulations, my bodies don't bounce. So I don't get into a situation where, am I going to pull her down too far? Am I going to load her up too much? Is she going to hold water? Is she going to be too tight? Is she going to be too... You take away a lot of that guesswork. So I tend to be very careful during preps. I don't go into extremes because I don't want levels going to extremes. If levels go to extremes, it's really hard to find out how to get it back into a balance. And usually it doesn't get back in balance until a day or two after the show. But again, not being a right or wrong way, everybody has a system and everybody has a way of running that system. With fat burners, again, you want to be careful. Use in moderation. So a lot of times I don't even like my athletes using fat burners in the off season because your adrenal glands kind of look like a elongated yam. And every time you're using a fat burner or a stimulant that stimulates the adrenal, it's like squeezing that yam down. So you're squeezing, well, eventually that thing looks about the size of a string. And that's when you get adrenal exhaustion. And if you ever get adrenal exhaustion, you're going to be in bed. You are not going to be able to walk around. It will take every single thing out of you. So you have to be careful. You got to watch what you're doing with your thermogenics. Use them sparingly. Use them for a direct purpose to get you through a sticking point in time that you're trying to get your metabolism, but don't overuse it. It's the same thing with stimulants that come in the can. It's real easy to drink 2 or 3 cans a day, and now all day long you're overstimulating your adrenals, and you're going to be at risk of adrenal exhaustion. So be very, very careful about how much stimulants you're using, because if you ramp those central nervous stimulants up, it will crash. At some point, it will crash. With sodium, and I have to be careful, because last year, JM got me sitting right underneath that salt shaker, and it looked like that's where my gray hair came from. So I was sitting right under there, and it looked like that's how I got gray hair. I had salt poured on top of my hair. With sodium, again, I'm not a proponent of completely dropping sodium, because if that electrolyte balance gets out, you can go flat very, very easily. And I'm not a proponent of overusing sodium, because by the same virtue, you can also get your electrolyte level up too high, and then you get extremely watery. I tend to play and manipulate it within the boundary of what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So I will play with different things to find out where's the lowest level that I can go before we get flat, and where's the highest level I can go before we start to hold water. So I will find that little range, and then as we get closer to the shows, I will slowly manipulate what we do. But there's a lot of times I won't even drop sodium with a lot of my athletes, because I know if I drop that sodium level, they're going to go flat. And you're going to need that electrolyte to be able to get the glycogen into the muscle. So if you do not have the electrolytes, because the electrolytes with the water, with the glycogen, that's what goes into the muscle, super compensates the muscle, and fills and rounds the muscle bellies. So we want to make sure that we always keep some slight balance in there with what you do with your sodium levels. It's not the enemy. You don't have to completely dump it. And back when I used to train people in Civil War days, this is when all we had to go by was Arnold's encyclopedia of knowledge, So we would, like, to not drink water, we'd suck on lemons. I would diet a whole show with no sodium, because I wanted to see what my body looked like without having water, like the fool I was. So you would get all the way through, and then I would learn, oh my God, no wonder why I was so damn flat. I never had electrolytes to help get anything in, and then things start to make sense, and you change your philosophies and what you do. And so you don't have to be afraid of what sodium is. You learn to work with what sodium is. I have a product line, and the reason I created my product line, two things. Number one, it's a sublingual, and I wanted it because a lot of times my athlete, I wanted the absorption rate to be higher and the usability of the product to be higher. But number two, I wanted to satiate cravings because my athletes were always craving sugar. So I was like, nah, I got to come up with something that we can utilize, satiates the cravings for sugar, but at the same time, it's healthy and it's not good. So I created a product line that it's a maple flavoring, and I always tell my athletes, please go easy. This is not a snack. It's a supplement. So my girls want to eat it like candy. I was like, no. They put it in their coffee. They put it on their oatmeal. They put it on everything. So it was a situation where I had to start to be careful about how we utilize it. But that's why I created a product line that's basically, I created a cortisol product, which actually was probably one of the best things I did, because so many times, all of us, whenever we're training, and now with all the other stuff that's going around our preps on top of the stress your body goes through, your outside influencers can be worse than everything you put yourself through in the gym. And so cortisol can tend to shoot up. And if cortisol shoots up, especially with female athletes, if that cortisol shoots up, now the hormones start to get out of whack, estrogen starts to come up. Do any of you guys, how many of you guys like soy products? Good. So what does soy do? Soy bumps estrogen. And again, estrogen adds decimal body fat around the midsection. So you want to always be careful in what you're doing. Cortisol I use, you lower cortisol, you lower that decimal body fat because stress bumps estrogen. And then estrogen brings in the body fat. So by lowering that, we lower the decimal body fat. Just a little bit about contest training, and I won't go into it too much, only because it's kind of a whole different area that I could expound on for like another year. But when you're training, if I had advice, and again, I come from old school, Dr. Hatfield was one way, Charles Poliquin was another way. My philosophy on training is I don't hunt with a shotgun. I hunt with a rifle and a scope. And so I like to target my areas of where I'm going into. Girls and guys are kind of different in how with guys you use a lot of compound movements and you're trying to add size and volumization. With girls, it's more about the finite things. Once you have the size, it's about balance. It's about balance from the front of the shoulders to the back of the shoulders, from the width of the shoulders to the taper of the waist, the bottom of the glutes matching the top of the glutes. So everything, when you do these things and you train, you're training for specialization. You're training, to try to get things to be the best that you can get it to be. When I work with my athletes like Laura Lee and a lot of my other Olympia girls, these girls have phenomenal base structures that they built. And when she first came to me, I was like, your structure's gorgeous, but there are spots that I think we can improve. But I want to pinpoint them. I don't just want to do squats for glutes, because now we're doing a compound movement. Yes, we're training glutes, but yes, we're also training quads and hips and hamstrings. I want to go in and I want to make this part of the glute better. And I want to work on the outer hip so we create curves. And I want to work on the tie-in where the bottom of the glute ties into the hamstring. So when you're training, always think about all the things that you're trying to work on And don't go after them with a broad aspect. Now, that being said, if your structure is balanced, but the bottom line is you just need overall muscle. You just need to be, you need a little more shoulders, a little more back, a little more legs. Okay, for you, you can do things in a more compound setting, and the overall size is going to be fine because your structure is balanced. You just need to be a little bit bigger. But if your top needs to be balanced to your bottom, or your front needs to be balanced to your back, then you're going to have to get outside of that mindset and try to think of things compartmentalized so your focus goes exactly where you're trying to attack, because you only have so much time to put into the sport. The other thing I put a lot of attention on is intensity, tempo, and range of motion. I don't believe, personally, I don't think girls should have to do 18 to 20 sets of an exercise, because your body can only take so much. And at some point, you're going to get an injury. And then we're going to be back into that road that injuries shut us down. I tend to focus on intensity because I want every single set, every rep of every set to mean something, to burn, to get the function I'm looking to get out of it, but to be intense so it fatigues the muscle tissue. And a lot of times but there are 3 different types of muscle tissue that fall within the muscle structure. So we want to stimulate all those muscle intensities, those fibers. And so the intensity drives into the muscle, whether it's a fast twitch, slow twitch, the intensity gets in and works that muscle. The range of motion is what develops the fullness and roundness to the muscle. So how many of you guys have seen shoulder press, and it starts here, and the shoulder press goes here and up, and here and up. And so a lot of times the girls come in, Laura Lee, we did one in Vegas, I'm like, why are you only doing half the movement? And when you're stopping here, you're losing the whole rest of the range of the motion, which is all the way down at the bottom. Now the problem with this is it cuts your strength in half, because now you're having to go through a full range of motion. And what does that attack? That attacks our ego. And we all like to do shoulder press with 50s instead of 25s or 30s. And so by going full range of motion on everything that you do, you're going to attack the muscle in a more complete motion. So you're going to fatigue it quicker, and when you go intensely, you're going to burn those muscle bellies out a lot faster. And then slowing the tempos down. When you slow the tempo down, you take the cheat movements out of it. And so when you're bouncing, you're jerking, you're swinging, you're taking a range of the motion out that's not getting worked. So if you're doing a bicep curl and you're swinging, the whole bottom part of that movement is gone. A lot of times I'll see, and again, not being a right or wrong way, but I'll see girls do hip thrusts, and they'll have like 4 or 5 plates on each side. If you do hip thrusts properly, where automatically you're using the muscle groups you're trying to use properly, you can't use that much weight. So if you go down, you're on a hip thrust here, you go down really slow, and then you come up really slow, and you hold the top of that hip thrust at the top. You can't hold 4 or 5 up there for you might be able to hold it there for about a half a second, boom, it's going to drop down because the weight's so heavy. So what ends up happening is you have to swing out the bottom. Now when you get to the top, you're just dropping it. So you're losing the top end of the glute that you're trying to train, because you're going through a swing motion and you're not getting the top end there. So when you're trying to target a glute and you're trying to go, man, I need more fullness up top, that's the squeeze at the top of the motion. So you want to lighten that weight down, go slow, let it really stretch the muscle, and then when you get to the top part of that muscle, squeeze it. I try to do that on every single exercise. So I slow my tempos down, I go full range of motion on every single exercise, and I push every single exercise to the intensity to almost failure. I don't believe in going full failure, because with girls you can get injured. Guys, we can take a little bit more. With girls, you can get injured. but I like the intensity, and by that I mean keep it moving and don't let it rest. So we keep constant tension on the muscle. So that's just kind of like a little overview and where my thoughts tend to run with what I do with training. The other thing is train for your sport. So in other words, a wellness athlete is not going to train like a bikini. And a figure is not going to train like a wellness. And a women's physique is not going to train like figure. You want to train to the sport you're trying to go to. And so you want to make sure that the degree of muscularity, and you guys, when your district chairmen have their seminars, like Gary's doing one tomorrow, listen to what they tell you. They're going to give you good advice. Bill is here from up in Pittsburgh, and JM is here from up in Pittsburgh also. They're going to tell you guys what they like to see in categories and what they want to see as far as muscle fullness. Listen to what the protocol is, because the protocol is different, depending upon where you are and what your categories are. Know your protocols, study your protocols, and then match your training up to fit the protocol to what the judges are going to want to see. Don't be afraid to ask their advice. They are happy to share with you their thoughts and what they think, what they see in your structure, where they might want to see improvements. That's how you learn. Don't take it defensively. Most of them, they are not being aggressive at you. They're just trying to give you the best information so that you can then take that information and then utilize it to better your physiques. So now what we're going to do is we're going to let Laura Lee go over some of the stage things with you. And so this is what we call basically your packaging. So the packaging is the finish touch that really makes a physique stand out. Everything comes alive. So it's your hair, your makeup, your jewelry, your posing, your shoes, how you present yourself. So you can have the best package in the world, but the judges can only judge what they see. Show them good, do good. Show them bad, do bad. So a lot of times I have watched physiques sabotage themselves because the girls put together, they had a great package. They showed the judges everything they shouldn't have seen. Too much quad split, too much of an angle. So Laura Lee will go over a lot of what we have here, and we'll let her take it over.
Thank you, Kim. Test, so that works. I'm going to start with presenting myself. So I'm Laura Lee Chapados. I am a Olympian athlete. I'm about to compete in 2 weeks at the Arnold, my third Arnold. This year is going to be my 5th Olympia. I've been an IFBB pro for now 5 years, and I've been competing for over 7 years since I'm 18 years old. And I'm saying all this today because I still learn. I come to these events and I learn every single time. And what I love to see is all those familiar faces, because I've been here about two weeks ago with Gary at another seminar, and I see those familiar faces that shows up again and again. You guys are doing your homework. This is overtime. These are the extra balls that Michael Jordan or Tom Brady, the extra yard that you put in. It's always going to be so beneficial for you. So first of all, congratulations to everyone who I see again. It's a pleasure to see all of you. And also thank you, Billy, Gary, JM, obviously Skylar, Kim Odo. We have expert in the room, guys. So please just go to them, ask the good questions. I wish I had that when I first started. You guys are blessed, and this is awesome. So I'm going to do my best, okay? I am 2 weeks out from the Arnold, and I'm also, English is not my first language, so hopefully the message is going to go through. So speaking of a package, I've worked on my package a lot. I love to train. I love the whole nutrition part, and when it comes to the girly things, I'm not on point with everything. But with that being said, if you do your homework and you try to figure out what works for you and your beauty, it's one thing. I also want to say something where with the evolution of the sport recently, they've been highlighting the natural beauty a lot. And what is that for me is there's no right or wrong. There is guidelines, don't get me wrong. There is right example. But there is no such things as don't wear only straight hair or wear only curly hair. There's no set standards. If you put out a package that you feel confident with and you feel beautiful in it, that speaks to the judges right away. That's the only language that you have to show it's confidence, right? So starting with makeup, we're gonna go over the proper skincare. So skincare goes obviously all around your body. We go on stage and we basically have a little piece of clothing that shows pretty much everything. So make sure you scrub, you do all the preparation for your skin to have a very nice and even skin. Skincare when it comes to shows as well. Your face, make sure you have a clean face. Your makeup artists are expert as well. If you have any questions about skincare, you can also go to them and just, ask the question. Always, always ask questions. Don't be scared about asking questions. Then foundation. Gary always talk about foundation because what happens is if you decide to go and do your makeup yourself and you're in your bathroom of the hotel and you're applying your foundation, you will go on stage with those light hitting your face and look like a light bulb head. So basically what's happening is that your foundation doesn't match your body. Our body is covered with tanning and it's a very, very dark tan. So make sure that your foundation does match with your tan. Again, there's professional makeup artists. I really suggest investing in those to not have that happen. Then eyeshadow. Eyeshadow is very personal. Again, with my experience, I would recommend something that is not overdone in a sense where the heavy glitter or the very, very heavy eyelashes where you can almost like open your eyes because they're so heavy. Get something light that really opens your face. Nothing that's really dark on the eyes. I would kind of stay away from like the very colorful eyeshadow as well, just because it kind of probably takes away from your suit as well. Then when it comes to lip color, I've seen beautiful fire reds. I've also seen nude lip, which is beautiful. I would always have some kind of contrast so we don't lose your lips. So don't go with your regular MAC teddy bear lipstick. Go with something a little bit, more outline that can, really open your smile. All right, so up to the hair. Like I said, when it comes to hair, do whatever makes you feel beautiful. Straight, curly, wavy. It's really what, I think by now you probably know what looks good on you. For me, I love straight hair for these kind of events. I don't think straight hair is enough for a stage. And that's also something you have to think about. Stage look and everyday look or photo shoot look are three different things. And that's why expert comes into play, but also you have to be realistic where, yes, you will look overdone if you go to the restaurant after your show. It looks like a lot. But on stage, it's part of the package. It's part of the beauty. It's part of, any other sport. We're athletes, right? If you see Michael Jordan, you know he's putting in the work. But imagine him showing up at a game with a dirty shirt on and just kind of like slacking. It doesn't give the same effect. Same thing for show and stage. You want to give that effect of professional, getting your things together. Everything looks nice and flows nicely. Then the length of the hair. It's funny because today me and Kim were going to posing in that room, and I'm looking at my back pose. And I'm like, wow, my hair are way too long. So basically, when I'm hitting my hair like this, if I hit my pose, my hair really will touch my my suit bottom. So I think having a little bit of a distance between your suit and your hair length, I'm gonna chop my hair off, basically. That's what I'm about to say. About like a 5-inch off so we can see my waist from the back. Other than that, if you wanna wear short hair, I've seen Daraja Hill, who's gonna be there tomorrow, rocking a bob, and she does it beautifully. So again, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Hair color, we also spoke about that because Kyler is the queen of hair color and difference. I mean, I guess tomorrow we'll talk more about it, but having a hair color, I think that's unified, kind of the same color or like little highlights is probably the best to go with it. Something that created contrast. Kim asked me today if I wanted to go blonde before the Arnold, and I was like, I think we'll shock the world enough with the new package. It's enough, but anything that would not distract the judges, you know, don't go with a pink hair to match your pink suit type of thing. Again, distraction to the physique. Like I said, anything could be distracting if it goes overboard, but I think by now you already know what suits you best and what flows the best for you. All right, now on to shoes. I think the shoes is something that's, one, important because they're part of your walk, they're part of your package. And there's also been a lot of new companies creating shoes. So with that being said, shoes, the platform, I really highly recommend having the platform in the front, especially for bikini girls. I think wellness less now, but they do have the shoes that don't have the platform in the front of the shoe. And what does that does is like it really makes it hard for you girls to walk, and it also accentuates the light in your quads. So for bikini, I recommend having like a little platform of 2 inches, I think, the platform in the front of the shoes. And the normal height is about like 4 inches to 5-inch tall heels, I believe, right? Again, the Shoe Fairy, all these companies have proper shoes. I think the main question, it always comes to strap. Do you wear shoes with or without strap? Wear what makes you walk like a good walk, not like a baby giraffe walk, right? So whatever makes you feel secure, I wear shoes with strap. I also have shoes without strap because when I go to Kim's room, I don't want to attach my shoes and make him wait. So I just rather slide into them and walk with them. But when it comes to stage, I feel more safe wearing the strap shoes, and it doesn't take anything away from my physique because, I mean, if the judges put their eyes on their shoes, I think you kind of miss the whole point. With that being said, there is these new shoes with a lot of embezzlement, diamonds. Kim, I want to bring you, like I'm asking you because I don't really know what to think about the whole embezzlement. I rather have my shoes are completely translucent. So I think it's a personal thing. I think it can take away because the worst I've seen is one with like complete, covered with diamond and with the platform and with the thing, and that becomes a lot. But if you keep it 2 inches tall, 4 inch, and there's a little diamond going on, I don't think it's that bad. But what do you think?
When you have your shoes, the whole thing with shoes is that you don't want it to be distracting. Because a lot of times what you don't realize is when you're out on stage and you've got like every light in the house pointed at you, that's a lot of lights. And so now if your shoes are like totally blinged out and you have it all around the bottom and all around the top. I had a client one time came to my facility and she went to go, I said, okay, go to the back and let me see what you post. As she was walking away, I saw red, yellow, blue, green, right in her heels. I'm like, you have blinkies in your heel. She's like, yeah, I do. I'm like, no. That's like, because guess where my eyes went? My eyes went right to the blinky heels. Now, instead of having an opinion about her physique, I had an opinion about her shoes. So you don't want things with when you're looking at shoes, two things. One, you don't want things being distracting, because if they're distracting, now it takes the judge's eyes off of the physique and it puts it on the distraction. Number two, they need to be comfortable. And realize that shoes can change what a judge sees in the length of your legs. So girls who have, let's say, the shorter, fuller quadriceps, if you wear low heels, like let's say a 3-inch heel, it's going to make your legs look fuller. So instead of elongating your leg line, where is what you're going to want to do, because you have the shorter, fuller thighs. So if you're bikini and you want a more elongated look, now you're going to want those heels coming up. So it can change what they see in the structure of your lower body. Secondly, they can make you either walk like a duck or walk like a model. So you want shoes that are comfortable so that when you walk, the walk looks very natural and very easy, and it's not over the top. The problem with platforms is sometimes if that platform gets too high, now it distracts from the look of the lower body, because it lengthens everything up, and all you see is these long, tall platforms, and you don't see the whole bottom of the leg coming up. So instead of it tilts your leg, your body lines, it tilts it back instead of being a little bit forward. So that's why with platforms you got to be careful. If the platforms get too high, again, they can be distracting, and it can tilt the body line in what you're doing.
I'm also going to add something, because every time I do something with Gary, he brings it up. The toenails, just make sure you have your toenails done. And if your shoes get too big because of your practicing, there's a way of making them a little bit shrinker, so it just molds to your feet nicely. Jewelry. So when it comes to jewelry, I think that's where it can get too much and very distracting, because it's so close to your body. So how much is too much? I personally, the standard for me is 2 bracelets. So I would have a bigger bracelet on the arm that's away from my hip, a smaller bracelet that's closer to my hip, because the connector is also a jewelry. And then I would have 1 ring, maybe 2, but 1 that's a little bit bigger, most probably on that arm again that's away from my body, and a pair of earrings, and that's it. So that's for my own preferences. Then you can play with it. Personally, I would also check with AB crystal and the crystal. So there's 2 kinds of crystal. The AB crystal, when you put it under the shining light, it reflects kind of like a yellow or like a rainbow color. Or you have the normal kind of Swarovski diamond. So if your suit is with AB, I would go with AB crystal jewelry. And then same thing with the opposite. So if it's crystal, more Swarovski style, I would go with crystal. When it comes to earrings, very important, because you're going to be in a movement. You don't want them to get caught into your connectors. That's just set you up for catastrophe. So something that's, a little bit, if you don't have a long neck, well, get shorter earrings. Not too big, not too heavy. Something that flows with your physique. If you're doing a hair flip and your earring is, in your hair and it goes messy, that's something to be careful with. Necklaces. Have you seen people with necklaces? We've probably seen it all by now. I do not recommend necklaces, just because, again, you have your connectors that are right there. Then this is kind of part of your physique. Having a necklace, I don't see how it can accentuate anything on your body. It would probably be distracting in some type of way. Bikini wellness, you kind of want to have like a nice V-taper. and having the connectors that separate your shoulders already, the necklace would already like be way too much, in my opinion. Bracelets, please. The sling one, like 9 bracelet, a bracelet over your shoulder, keep kind of that on the low. Again, if you're doing your front pose and your arm is, you know, away from your body, I would put the bigger bracelet. And when I say bigger bracelet, it's about like a 3-row bracelet. Like a 3-row bracelet, and then the 1-row bracelet on the hands that on your connectors. So that's for jewelry. Then when it comes to suits, my favorite part, I only had 2 suit color in my entire career. I started with a green, like an emerald-ish green, which I got myself on Amazon, and I glued my own diamonds with crazy glue. Please do not do that. There's amazing companies out there. I'm working with Toxic Angel. There's Angel Competition Bikini. A lot of very talented artists out there. So again, go to these professional. So about the color, like I said, I had 2 colors in my life. I had green and I had that blue purplish that I would never go away from. I almost did a red, but I won't. Is a whole vibe. You're gonna connect with your suit. Having a color of your suit is part of your package. It's part of the energy that you're gonna come with on stage as well. When it comes to color, I recommend something that's contrasty with your skin. Remember, when I tried my red suit and I posted on Instagram, everybody was, oh my God, you look so great. Yes, it does look great. It's a great color suit, but for me, as soon as I put a coat of tan on, that red suit it doesn't vibe at all. So that's why I stick with it's not a bright blue at all. It's like a purplish blue, but you do see the color. And I do think having a color of your suit and not just a full pad of full crystal, it brings a lot more. So I would go with, you know, stone. We're going to talk about the stones right afterwards, but I mean, let's jump to the stones right now. So the stonage of your suit, don't do the full thing where it covers the entire suit and we lose the color. Bring a color to the stage. I think it brings a lot of your personality and just the whole contrast. You know, it cuts your physique. I mean, like Jessica, that green, you know, we see the green. She had a little bit of like, you know, pink in it. In that suit that I'm wearing over there, there's purple, there's crystal, but they're all separated a little bit and they're all pretty small and spaced so we can see the color go through. The cut and the fit. So that again, it really goes personal with your body. I know Toxic has about 3 or 4 different cuts. I think mine is the high cut just because I have longer legs. And there's a way also to cut my torso. So since I'm tall and my torso is long, even though I don't have any implants, I just rather have a bigger suit and just stuff the heck out of it. So it kind of cuts my torso and makes me more proportion. You can play with that. It's an illusion again. If you're working with professional, again, they're going to help you with that. So that's one of it. I also really like having a suit, especially when it comes to the top, having that kind of a water drop situation. So it kind of goes thinner here and then goes wider at the bottom. So it just covers everything nicely and just get everything secure. You don't want anything dropping down or the side or too much. You want everything just set and everything professional. When it comes to the back side, I have not the pro cut, not the smaller cut, because for the last year or so, my glutes have been a little bit too big. So what I've done is kind of having a bigger, just a bigger cut in the back side. So you can also play with that. Other than that, you just stick to the standard that they're giving you. But the pro cut or the micro cut is always what you go for. how far out to order? Better safe than sorry. Do it 12 weeks out from the show, 13 weeks out from the show. If you change your mind through it, then you can change. But don't wait to the last minute. Don't wait until the last minute to start working on your final package. It should be on your mind every single day. Every single day you're practicing your posing, you see something different on your body, you're like, oh, how can I, make that better? If you don't have your suit already, or you haven't started thinking about it, or your makeup, it's not, last minute things can be very, very stressful. It can be very overwhelming, and you don't want to rush your final package. Are we already there? That went by so fast. Do you feel like I should add anything? That went by so fast. I'm so sad. Did I miss anything? Do you guys have questions before we jump on I know we have a Q&A afterwards, but might as well ask if they have.
Yeah, we're going to do a Q&A. The only thing I want to say, because how many of you guys are coming tomorrow? Show of hands. Everybody, right? Everybody? All of y'all come. Well, tomorrow they're going to go over posing with you guys a lot. So I really don't want to touch. I want to leave that to tomorrow, and the only thing that we want to say about posing is practice, practice, practice. When you get your feedback and you find out what you need to work on, practice your posing, because posing can make or break your whole package. It's what you show the judges, it's what they see, and then leads to how they judge you. So you guys, tomorrow you're going to get a lot of great information on posing. They're going to have a great panel here. You've got great judges here to work with you guys. So, but the most important thing is taking the information of what they tell you and then utilizing that information in practice. Bottom line is, anybody tells you you're going to walk, and I don't care if it's Laura Lee or Janet or Angelica, anybody tells you that you're going to walk on stage and not be nervous, bull. You're going to either have some anxiety or some level of nervousness, because it's natural. You're out there. This is the environment. You look out, you see lights, you see people, you get all revved up, your anxiety levels go through the roof. Now, next thing you know, instead of walking across the stage, you're sprinting across the stage. And then as a coach, we sit out there going, oh my God, she's not going to stop. She's not going to stop. So it's a situation where if you practice and you work it, then whatever you practice, I promise you, even if you aren't cognizant of what you did, you're going to do it, because that's what you've been practicing. So a lot of times my clients come up and go, Coach, did I even pose? Yeah, you did great, because they did exactly what they practiced. So if you practice it and perfect your practice, then that's what will show up when you're out on stage. Do you guys have any questions? We'll open it up now to any Q&A that you guys might have on anything that we discussed tonight. Anything at all. We'll get Skylar to bring it to you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so my question is, and I know obviously this is me asking for myself, but you don't know me, you guys don't know my body, but I guess my question is, in prep for bikini, what are your thoughts on list versus HIIT cardio, and when would you use one or the other, or not use one, I guess? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, when you're doing cardio, the bottom line with cardio is your body doesn't know what it's on. It doesn't know, oh, she's on an elliptical today. Oh, she's on a Stairmaster today. Your mind knows, your body doesn't know. All your body knows is the intensity that you're pushing the core metabolic rate. Now, what's the difference between steady state, HIIT, intervals? The difference is going to be the stimulation to the core metabolic rate. Certain things will push the intensity of your core metabolic rate more so than others. I tend to use a balance, only because if you're doing the same thing every single day, it's very easy to get burnt out. It's very easy to get out and go, my God, I do another HIIT session. So I go in and out of them. I focus on calories burned. And the reason I focus on calories burned is I have a target. My clients have a target. They know where I want to hit. And so now, whether they get there via steady state or whether they get there via intervals or HIIT, it's the same calories burned. And that's what their physiques and their core metabolic rate knows. It knows the intensity that the core metabolic rate is being pushed. So by using a variety, you mentally keep yourself a little fresher, I think. Now, that being said, again, certain things work different for everybody, but it keeps your mind a little bit. It gives us something different. I don't know about you guys, but when I used to, like, again, back in the Civil War days when I used to compete, if anybody walked by my treadmill, I grabbed them. Get over here and talk to me, because I wanted something to distract me, because to sit there for 30 or 40 minutes doing my cardio, it's like my brain would short circuit. So by using different stimuluses, you give yourself different levels of motivation. So I would use effectively all three. Maybe focus on the calories that you're burning to know, okay, no matter what I do, this, I'm going to go for this amount of calories burned so that I hit my target every single time.
I think you brought a strong point too earlier in the presentation when it comes to effectiveness of cardio and fasted cardio. So a lot of people, fasted cardio doesn't match your schedule and it doesn't match your energy level. If you're dragging yourself out of bed, don't force yourself to do your fasted cardio and do that zombie walk. Get your meal in, get your little morning routine in, get to the gym with a pep in your step, and go do your cardio with a pep in your step, not dragging yourself on the treadmill. If that day you feel like you can really, HIIT cardio is hard. Like I've done HIIT cardio, and HIIT cardio, when you're hitting your 15 seconds or 30-minute sprint, you're supposed to die. Like you're supposed to feel like dying, and then you stop and you retake your breath and you start over again. That can be extremely taxing on your body. You have to be very aware mentally of your capacity, and not also run away from the challenge. The sport is a hard sport, don't get me wrong, but you also have to be respectful of your own limitation and be aware. This morning I had a good workout, a circuit workout. I challenged myself and it was perfect, and then Kim called it off and I was like, thank God. I could have almost kept going, but it could have worked backwards. And I think that's really important to learn your limitation, but also challenge yourself. So I think having the three and just kind of jingle and mingle with it and just kind of find what makes you kind of happy and what makes you like burn calories, you're going to figure it out pretty soon. Yeah.
Questions? Don't be afraid. Hands, anything.
It's on. Okay, cool. So for peak week, would you rather do a front load or back load approach, or that just depends on the competitor?
It's different with each individual because you really don't know where a physique, she's getting ready to do the Arnold's in 2 weeks. And I have absolutely no idea what we'll do because you have to really wait and see. Now, as I discussed before, I'm not a proponent of extremes. So I don't like getting that pendulum. If you get that pendulum swinging, it's really hard to keep things in balance, and it becomes a hit or miss. And too often we can miss rather than hit. So what I tend to do is I tend to do things incrementally on a day-to-day basis. And I literally study it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because you never know how a body's going to respond to what you did the previous day until that morning. And then you look at it, you study it, and then you make your decisions on where you're going to go. But I tend not to, I don't sodium load, I don't sodium deplete. But again, that's not being a right or wrong way. Everyone has a way of running their systems, but I don't overload it.
Does that also depend if you're enhanced or natural, or that's across the board?
I mean, it can. Everything that's in your system changes your system.
Gotcha.
So, and bodies are going to want to stay in balance. So no matter what you have through, if you have things in your system that's changing, it could change what your body dynamics do.
I also think when it comes to peak week, you should be ready. You should be ready to step on stage about 2 weeks out from your show. Peak week should be vacation time. It should be you go to your room, You stay in your room, you see your coach, you're kind of enjoying the process. Backload, front load, it adds like some kind of stress, you know? It's some kind of extreme as well. If you've been doing everything right all the way through and you're ready 2 weeks out, were you doing a backload and front load nonstop all the way through your prep? If you were, that's fine, keep doing what you were doing. But if you weren't, why would you start doing like a front load or back load or all these kind of like load things that, again, is a spaghetti on the wall. Is it gonna stick or it won't stick? It's an extreme, you know? So be ready ahead and go into your peak week just cruising in.
Good questions. Keep them rolling.
I have a question about, I love fasted cardio, but can it have a negative effect if you do too much of it?
It can, depending upon where it's good if you do well. I used to do fasted training because I couldn't train on a full stomach. It would agitate me, and then my training session, I'd be worried about my stomach being bloated and how I felt instead of focusing on what I was doing with my training. With fasted cardio, you have to be careful because you got to remember your lactic acid levels are down. The whole process of doing fasted means that when you get up in the morning, your glycogen levels are at its lowest. And so you burn through the glycogen a little quicker, which taps into the lactic acids, which burns the fat a little bit more. Now, that can be a positive if you've got enough glycogen there to protect the muscle. But let's say you haven't had glycogen for 12 hours, 14 hours. Now your glycogen levels are all you have left is fat. But let's say you don't have much fat in your diet and your fat's very low. Now guess what your body's going to turn to? The next source of fuel is going to be muscle. And now you're going to start to burn the muscle, and the muscle is going to start to atrophy. So all that hard work starts to get bit into. So if you're going to do fasted, you have to make sure that your fat levels are high enough, because the way it's going to go is glycogen, fat, muscle. So as long as these two levels are up enough to protect this third level, and the way you can check that is with keto sticks. You can see before you go do cardio, check your ketone levels. If you're deep in ketosis, be careful about that fasted cardio, because that means, okay, you're so deep in, your body's going to go right to that muscle. You're going to start to tap in, you're going to start to burn a little bit of that muscle.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, very good questions.
Hi, I wanted to know if there are any machines that are essential to building a bikini body.
If there's what? I'm sorry.
Any gym machines that are essential. Like, could you do without hip thrust, or could you do without,
Bring the mic up a little bit. I'm sorry, go ahead.
If there are any gym machines that you could do without to achieve the bikini look. So like I work out at my apartment's gym, and I feel like it's well equipped, but am I missing out on a specific gym machine that could help me achieve goals?
I mean, the variety is a spice of life. Okay. And so when COVID hit, obviously a lot of people had to go to their gyms. They had to use stability balls and bands and things like that. And you can still get work done. You can still be able to get things done to where your physique can make improvements and you can get yourself to better places. With that being said, with all the machines that you have here, each machine has a different pivot point. And each machine is constructed and designed to hit the muscle in a certain way. So yes, to be honest with you, the more variety you have, the more things because machines are going to be very individualistic to each person. Some of us have longer torsos, some shorter torsos. That's why machines have pivot points and they have variability on where you can put the angles in the seats. So the more access you have to variety, the more different levels of stimulation you have that will hit the muscle a little different. Is it absolutely necessary? No. I mean, I grew up in a time when we were basically training with rocks and sticks. We didn't have a whole lot. We had dumbbells and we had barbells. So everything was a squat, a deadlift, and a bench press. That's kind of what our tool was. And then we would change the angle of the bench to get fancy. But with nowadays, the machines have the design and the craftsmanship of the machines are so well constructed that the more variety you have, the more opportunity you have to stimulate muscle tissue. Some of them have negative pivot points on them that they work the eccentric, because you have two ranges of motion. You have concentric and eccentric ranges of motion. So what people forget, everybody tends to be really good at the concentric part. That's the contraction. Where we tend to fall a little asleep is the eccentric part, which is the negative. And that negative is just as important as the contraction, because slowing the negative down hits a completely different set of muscle fibers. So point being, when you have, now, usually what I will recommend, let's say if you have a nice gym setup, but maybe it doesn't have as much of the leg equipment that you would like, usually what I'll recommend to my clients is maybe do your leg workouts in the gym, do your back workouts in the gym, shoulders, chest, arms. Those are things you can manipulate in different ways with dumbbells and cables and bands, things like that. But obviously the more variability that you can bring in and the more different angles you can utilize on your body, then the better chance your body has of hitting muscles from different angles to create growth.
Just make sure you talk into the mic.
Hi, Coach.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Laura Lee. Okay, well, I have a question about quads. Laura Lee, you have great quads. And I know, Kim, you're my coach. So we work, you work the quads quite a bit or not, because your quads stick out. So as a bikini competitor, I see some people with a little bit more quads, some people have less quads.
So I think the key word here is balance and proportion. Whatever matches your physique, that's where it goes from. Does my quad stick out? I think it matches my physique really well when I pose. We actually went through a little bit more quads today, just because it has to match my backside and then my front on my front pose. And yes, I work a little bit more on developing my quads lately with Kim, but all in the only and sole intention of creating those perfect proportion for bikini. So again, there's no one thing. It's your thing, and own it, and that's how you have a coach that can help you with that.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Well, and to answer your question, everything is about aesthetics.
Yeah.
And it's about the genetics of your structure and your physique. So if it's a shorter girl and she tends to be shorter, more compact in stature, you want to be really, really careful about the size of your quads, because you're not going to grow up. Your growing is pretty much done at age 20, 25. You're only going to go out. So if you tend to train legs really heavy, you have a shorter torso ratio from belly button to heels, then obviously the fullness of your legs are going to go more into wellness instead of into where bikini is, which is a little longer frame line. And so depending upon the aesthetics of your structure, you want to always think in balance. Everything needs to be in balance. So quads in balance to hamstrings, bottom in balance to top. And if you keep everything structure-wise balanced, then your body line will always fall proper. But that's where I said it's so important getting feedback from your judging panels, because they know the protocol. They know the protocol to look, and you have to stay within that protocol. So getting that feedback to see, okay, am I still in protocol? Am I too big for protocol? Am I fitting more of a different category now because this is where my genetics took me? There's a lot of factors that become involved when you're designing and restructuring physiques. And I've been lucky enough to work. I have had women's physique that I've taken into bikini. I have had bikini I've taken to figure. I've had figure that I've taken to wellness, just because by the design and structure of their body, instead of going against the grain of what their genetics were, we started to go with the grain of their genetics. And then that took them to the place that they wanted to go.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Hi, I have a question on sleep and recovery. So during prep, what do you recommend for how much sleep you're getting every night or naps? I have a job that I sometimes work 24 to 48 hour shifts, so I struggle sometimes with getting regular sleep. So just kind of curious your thoughts on that.
You should try to sleep 16 hours a day. Just kidding. She's like, I ain't got time to sleep 16 hours a day. Recovery obviously is extremely important because without recovery, the muscle tissue does not heal, and the stress levels, cortisol will tend to rise, which will change distal body fat. So there is no optimal. There are some of us that can go with 6 hours a day. There's some of us that can go with 8 hours a day. Some need 9 or 10. It's different with each individual as to what fits the full recovery. You can take things like magnesium to relax the muscle, to allow your body to relax to get a better sleep, or whether it's melatonin so that you maybe get into deeper REM. The important thing about sleep is the quality of your sleep. Sometimes it's not so much about did you actually sleep 8 hours? It's like, did you get 8 hours of quality sleep? How deep was the REM that you slept? Because if you get that deep, restful sleep, your body can recover much quicker. If your mind is constantly going and you're tossing and turning and you're not getting full rest, then your body never gets into the deep REM and it never fully heals and recovers. So I would plan when you can get your sleep, you get the elongated, and when you can't get as much, you focus on the depth of your sleep. And maybe using something to help you sleep a little deeper, so the REM and the deeper REM helps you recover better.
Thank you.
Somebody,
Hi, my question is more for the hormonal aspect, more specifically for women when it comes to their menstrual cycle every month. What would you recommend doing nutritionally to sort of help combat those symptoms? Like if you get really bad cramps or backaches or headaches or nausea and you really don't feel comfortable with trying to go into a gym, what can you do nutritionally to kind of offset not really feeling comfortable with going to a gym?
When it comes to like my apologies. When it comes to my personal experience, I've noticed that when obviously I eat more fibers during that time, and also when I eat carbs, I try to avoid carbs before my workouts because it kind of triggers those bloating or those like pains. Is it personal? I think my mom is like that too. When she eats sugar or she eats, starchy carbs, during the day, like the cramps just goes awful. So I don't know if it's a personal thing for me, so I try to avoid that. I just work out earlier in the day. As soon as you wake up, normally you're kind of like, okay, shine bright, like let's get this thing going, and then you can have your cramp later and just be miserable all day, But it's reality, it's that week of the month, and you have to embrace it and just deal with it.
how many of you guys are competitive athletes? How many of you guys go on npcnews.com? Every hand better go up. JM, come say hi.
Hi.
JM Mannion runs the NPC News Online, which, guys, it's a great source of information. So a lot of the things that we talk about today about suits and hair and posing, it's a great source for you to go to look at the people who are in your area, to see what the shows look like, what the athletes look like, how, what all the criteria is. It's a great place to go, especially for inspiration, because girls like Laura Lee and all the top end pros, Jen, and they're all on the NPC News website. And it's motivational to see they're just like you. They go through the same things you go through. They go through the same ups and downs and challenges. Believe me, they all have their days that they have to fight through not wanting to go to the gym or wanting some food. Coach, no, come on, hang in there. We're almost there. Let's keep working. They get the same challenges you get. What makes a champion is they don't put anything in front of their challenge. Nothing stops them from their challenge. That challenge, that's their main thing, and that's what they set their eyes on. Everything else takes a back seat, and they put their focus on where they want their focus to be. Any more questions? Shoot away. So, Skylar, did we did the tickets? Huh?
Yes, I handed out tickets.
You what?
Yes, we handed out the tickets.
Oh, okay. So you want to do a little raffle?
Yeah, let's go for it.
So what we did, we were blessed. Toxic Angels, they sponsor.
Oh, wow.
They sponsor Lorelei.
Okay.
Toxic
Hi,
Angels
Margaret.
gave us
She's
a couple of
probably
things,
watching right
and
now.
we have a couple little other things that we just brought. So what we're going to do is we're going to let Lorelei pick a ticket. So if your number's called, come on up. We have our bags back there, and we'll just bring whatever we have up here.
Can I do it? Can I do it?
Not yet. So what we'll do, our first giveaway will be it's $150 off of a competition suit.
And so I've never done that before. So I just read the number, right? Okay. Number.
Just read the last three.
The three? Okay. 337. 337.
Anybody's last number is 337.
Oh, right here. Oh. Congratulations.
And we'll do one of the bags now.
All right, here we have 342. Yay, congratulations. I don't want to.
And we'll do another bag.
So many bags. 334. 334. Oh, sweet. Congratulations. How are you?
Y'all are mild. If it was me, I'd be jumping up and down. That's me.
I kind of want to win. 322. 322. Congratulations. Two more, huh? Amazing. 329. 329. Let's see. Congratulations. $314. 314. Sweet.
Wow, this is like the first time everybody's been here. And we have another one. And then we have our last coupon.
Okay. All right, I have it. 316, 316.
Yay!
Yay, congratulations.
You have a week's supply at the Cheesecake Factory.
I wish.
And our another $150 off the suit.
343. 343. Congratulations. That's a wrap.
So, all of you guys that are coming tomorrow, get a good night's sleep, get some rest, because tomorrow will be a long day. Thank you so much for Lorelei for being here with us. We're excited to see her grace the stage in a couple of weeks. All of you guys please watch on live view if you're not going to be there. But we wish her luck, and it's going to be it's a really talented group of athletes. You know, it's always fun to watch the girls get up there and enjoy themselves and have fun. So we're excited to see her up there and wish her all the best. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And thank you guys so much for coming. I truly appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
coming, you guys. Thank you.